chief political correspondent, Washington Examiner, Fox News contributor with some analysis on all of this. How you doing?
Good morning.
Listen, you had to read a lot over the weekend to follow the back and forth. Just bring our viewers up to speed based on what we know, what we think we know, what's still out there. Where are you on this?
Well, what you have to keep an eye on the core allegation in all of this, which is, did Donald Trump or anybody around him collude with the Russians to influence the 2016 election? So remember that right there. We have all along had a lot of reports in the news that relied on wiretaps. They said specifically intercepted communications about Paul Manafort or about Michael Flynn. Well, President Trump blew everything up by saying that Barack Obama had tapped his phones. So he makes this allegation. There is no evidence right now to support that, but there are a lot of wiretaps out there, and it's something the public actually needs to figure out what happened.
The law says you can't spy on Americans, but that conversation has changed when some foreign entity is doing business here in the U.S. and they're considered suspicious, and that's the reason for the entire law.
Exactly. The intelligence community has basically said these were taps that focused on foreign people, for example, the Russian ambassador or Russians in Russia, and as a result of those taps, they picked up conversations with Americans. But even when that happens, there are a lot of procedures that are required to protect the constitutional rights of the American party on that conversation.
James Clapper was public again yesterday in Meet the Press. He was asked about this based on his role and his knowledge when he said the following.
The FBI, for instance, had a FISA court order of some sort for a surveillance. Would that be information you would know or not know?
Yes.
You would be told this.
I would know that.
If there was a FISA court order
Yes.
on something like this.
Something like this, absolutely.
And at this point, you can't confirm or deny whether that exists?
I can deny it.
He's denying specifically what?
Yeah, he's denying that the White House, the Obama White House, put a wiretap, or any of the intelligence agencies put a wiretap on either Donald Trump or Trump Tower. So it's the idea that you remember the former president's office put out a statement and said there were absolutely no wiretap orders that came from President Obama or the Obama White House. Very specific about that entity.
This was James Clapper 4 years ago, under oath, Senate Intelligence Committee.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
That was a big story at the time because that statement was not true.
Flat out not true. And so that a lot of people accuse Clapper of lying to Congress because of that, but he clearly didn't tell the truth in that particular exchange.
Let me try and cut through a lot of this and go to two critical points here. Every time this story had been reported over the weekend, it was reported as President Trump does blah, blah, blah without evidence.
Correct.
We must also add that the claims of the Trump campaign colluding with the Russians during the campaign also is still without evidence, correct or not?
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, and James,
so then what do we know now?
we don't know a lot. In James Clapper's interview yesterday, the one you just played a brief denial of any wiretapping from, he also said he had seen no evidence of collusion, and he was on the job as the head of the intelligence community up to January 20, and that investigation had been going for months at that time.
I mentioned you had to read a lot over the weekend, and if you read deep into the story, there is a suggestion based on certain reporting that one of the Trump entities was communicating with a Russian bank. Whether that was on Fifth Avenue or downtown or out of Washington, D.C. or Florida, we do not know. But apparently the story suggests that a computer was communicating with the Russian bank by sending email, and the email was spam. So is it possible, Byron, through all of this, if you go to a FISA court in July, you're like, something's not right here. You're denied that warrant. You go back in October, you are granted that warrant. And what you find is this lone computer sending spam to a Russian bank. Is it possible in the end, this is what this is all about. Yes or no?
You know, there was a Washington person a couple of days ago who said, in this case, the smoke is the fire. In other words, there's all this smoke and there's actually nothing at the bottom of it. And that could actually be the case, because so far, after a lot of investigation and a lot of leaks, we have not seen any evidence about that basic question you and I started with. Did Donald Trump or anybody around him collude with the Russians to influence the election?
You don't know what you don't know. Byron, thank you. Well stated.
Bill.
Byron York with analysis. Hope you got that at home. And when the story changes, we'll follow it.